Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Post 3, Depot Street. Truck boy at request.
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and Jacob Litton is here as well. We're going to recap the Week 14 loss to the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot to get into in this game. There's a few things I'm really interested to get your opinion, Jacob. But before we get all started with that, Jacob, in 1 or 2 words, describe your feelings regarding the Lions right now.
In 1 to 2 words. That's tough. Give me a second here.
That's tough. That's 2 of them.
I'll have a good answer for that question.
All right. Mine is just 1 word: flabbergasted. I cannot fathom what's happened with this team with the injuries and everything like that. It's just unbelievable.
You know, it was one thing if we're talking first reaction right after the game, because the game didn't go how we wanted it to, obviously. But then obviously we're recording this one Monday night, so the injury news has already came out. We've already gotten word on all the people who are hurt and the extensive time that they're going to miss. It's much more deflating today than it was yesterday. I'll say that.
Yeah, there's something more to worry about than just that one game. It's the rest of the season and
where this leaves us going forward
and the
right.
playoff implications. So, mine is just, I don't know how this team keeps going. I mean, they will. It's just, you get to the point where you can only handle so much attrition, and it's just, I hate to see these injuries derail an awesome season. I mean, the Lions are 12-2. It's just an amazing thing that this team's gone through. And then, most teams would hit a wall when they had the Hutch injury, right? I mean, you have a player of that caliber go down, but we seem to be playing, really good defense. Even some might say better defense after, just the defense had grown and they just continued to get better even without Hutch and found a way to win. And now, it's just devastating injury after devastating injury, and to lose 2 more starters on defense. And then, another probably was going to be a starter when Carlton Davis was out. Khalil Dorsey was probably going to be your starter. Now he's out too. So now we're going to be figuring out, scrambling who's going to be, is Mosley going to move up, those type of things. And then, we knew about those injuries, right? And then you and I are at work, and then the report about David Montgomery comes down. And while I think Gibbs is going to be able to shoulder a lot of that load, it's just insult. It's injury upon injury, insult to injury. It's hard to fathom. And I feel bad for a guy like David Montgomery, who did all the right things in the offseason, got himself prepared for the season, and then to go down like this at the end, right before the playoffs, it's hard to stomach.
It's just terrible luck here at the end. I mean, it's just injury after injury, week after week. It seems like it's getting a little bit tougher. And, the fact that we're 12-2 right now, the playoffs are already locked. Like, we already have our playoff spot. Now we're still in a fight trying to get that first round bye that we definitely need to get healthier. But, the fact of the matter is that the playoffs, we've already locked a playoff spot. We're going to have our chance in the playoffs. We're not going to get eliminated like this. The season's not over. We are going to have a playoff game. So I'm not ready to, fold just yet and throw in the cards. This team's not ready to do that either. We've been playing next man up for a long time. It worked, and this game, it did not,
Well, you're playing a possible Super Bowl team, right? I mean, that offense was really tough to stop. Even on a good day, we are going to have a tough time providing stops to that team. We're going to need our offensive play at its top of its game. And while we scored 42 points, there was still some meat we left on the bone with this offense. We can get into that when we get to the breakdown, but there was still things that this offense could be doing. Now, the way I look at it is we do not play a team on the the 3 games that we have left in the regular season. No one's on the level of the Buffalo Bills. Certainly the Bears aren't. Certainly the 49ers aren't, with all the injuries that they have incurred. And, Minnesota, they're struggling a little bit with the Viking or the Bears right now. So, I mean, I think that we still have a shot to finish this thing out and get the number 1 seed. That being said, we get into playoffs, it's going to be tough for competition, but still, the Eagles are the team in the NFC that I'm most worried about, that, especially now that Aleem's down, it's going to hurt our run defense. But when we get Alex back in the playoffs, that's going to be a big boost to that whole core. And I think that you'll start seeing better play out of our linebackers when we have Alex back there. But, we got to get to that point. But I think that we could, I still think that we got a pretty good shot to win the last 3 games this year.
Definitely. It's not out of the cards. They're the Bears. That should still be, even with the offense that we have, we should be able. That's where I'm kind of looking at it now, is if we take the defense out of the question, can we outscore these teams on their best day? And the answer is yes. We can outscore every single one of these teams that we're going to be playing. Yep. But the offense has to be firing on all cylinders, and if you come out sluggish like we did in this game, we go down quick, and it was just ended up being too much to get back.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that for most teams, we're going to be able to weather a 3-and-out at the beginning of the game. It was just the Bills were just scoring consistently and got up on us early, and the Bills played us like how we usually play teams, right? Get up on them early, keep the pressure on them, and maybe they falter along the way or whatever. The Lions just kept fighting back. Say what you want to say about the Bills in that game, but the Lions did not just go away quietly. We fought our way back, and I really wish we would have got that onside kick at the end of the game just to see how that would have really played out. That would have been super exciting. All the people that left Ford Field early, I would have loved to see them, miss out on some late game magic, but that wasn't in the cards, unfortunately.
The best Lions team we've ever had, and people are leaving Ford Field early.
Yeah.
You should know, if we're going down swinging. I mean,
I know.
We're definitely not going to lay down and just take it easy and admit defeat.
Yeah. Some of those people probably have a long drive home and they're just thinking, I'm going to kick this thing off early. I'm not going to judge them too much, on what they have going on. We don't leave a game early. That's just, my family won't leave a game early. We've had the thoughts of leaving the Titans game earlier, the Jaguars early, but no, it's just, we're there to the bitter end, win or lose, going to cheer on our team. And, but again, I don't judge too many other people. I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what they got going on in their life. It was a later game too. So some of those kids have school. I know, like Matt Sotiziak, who we, interviewed before, he lives 4 hours away. So I could understand wanting to jet out a little bit early because he's not going to get home till midnight or whatever if he went to that game yesterday.
I suppose. You're making excuses for them. I just can't relate. There's no way I leave any event early. I don't care if it's a baseball game where we're down by 12. I can't leave.
No, but I also didn't drive 4 hours to the game. I mean, maybe my feelings leave a little different. And, everyone deals with losses differently. There's some people that, our downloads are down, way down today than they normally would be for a Monday. Because no one, people want to avoid this pain for a little bit. And I get it. I don't think you and I are especially jacked about talking after a loss, but it is fun talking football with you, and we'll try to get through this loss together.
We've also been fortunate enough that this is only the second time we've had to do this.
Yep. I know. I wasn't as worried about it this time as I was the first time. I don't know if it's
right.
We've been doing this for a while or what, or if that was just because it was a week 2 loss and I was realizing I was going to have to talk about it afterwards. But doing what we do and doing this, it actually keeps my focus outside of, I know this is not a job, but sometimes it feels like there's a responsibility to put on a good show. And so we got to, just put our mind to whatever we got to do. But
Right.
like
Keep the emotions in check a little bit.
yeah, and that's the way I do feel like as a dad too. I got to keep my emotions in check. My two boys handled this a lot differently. My youngest, Bradley, was very emotional almost from the get go, and that's kind of him normal. Like if he just, automatically goes to doom and gloom if the other team scores at any point early in the game, and so he just had to leave our seats for a little bit. Preston was actually really good. I was my oldest. I was kind of expecting him to be really upset, but I think at the end of the day, he knew we're in the playoffs. This is a tough game, and the fact that we went, what do we have? 11 wins in a row, 11 wins in a row. So we're gonna have to lose some of these games, and it just happened to be the game we were at, which was unfortunate, but got to learn to deal with that stuff.
Well, and like you said, this is against probably the top team in the AFC. We knew it was going to be a big matchup. It didn't hold too much weight. You never want to lose, but I mean, if you had to pick a game to lose on the rest of the schedule, this would probably be the one.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, if you said before you're going to lose by 6 to the Bills, it's like, okay, you know what? I can live with that. Yeah. It's the way the game went and how the points laid out and the aftermath. That's what stings more so than the loss itself.
Yeah. I mean, I know the game was ended by 6, but this felt like more like a reverse Packers game to me. Like when we went into Lambeau and won, like it got closer, like within 10 at the end. But really, when you watch that game, it was never that close. And I feel like if you're a Buffalo fan, you're probably feeling the same way that, yeah, it might have ended 6 points, but it was probably over before that. Let's talk about the onside kick. That's a hot button topic. What was your first thought when you heard they were going for an onside kick? Because now you have to announce that you're going for an onside kick, so you know what's coming up. What was your first thought when we're like, we're going to do an onside kick?
Honestly, what my first thought was how funny it was that we just talked about that at the Christmas party yesterday, or the day before that. We just talked about the onside kick rules and how you couldn't surprise and everything, and here we are in the situation. Yeah, definitely unorthodox, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. It's not like, the game's over yet. We're still early on in the fourth quarter, but it's one of those things. That's the kind of stuff that we do. Those are the kind of calls that Dan Campbell makes. Obviously, we wish we wouldn't have given up that return all the way down and given a short touchdown again right away. But, hindsight's 2020. I was okay with it, though.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
So the boys and Sarah looked at me and were like, why are they doing that? And I'm trying to process it. I'm like, what is the advantage of doing this? Why are we doing it now? My thought was Dan Campbell just thought our defense is not stopping them at all. We need to steal a possession. And why wait to the end of the game to try to steal that possession? We need to, let's do it now. I'm sure he did not anticipate like a 50-yard return on that and get down into the red zone. I mean, that makes it look worse than really what it was. I mean, ideally at that point, you're up by 10. You're hoping to give it to him, at the 40 or the 50 or what, close in that area, hold them to a field goal. Then we get within, we go down, score a touchdown, then we're within 6. I mean, that's ideally how I looked at, what Dan Campbell was thinking about. If we don't get it, we have to stop them for a field goal. Well, they end up returning it, made it look really bad. It's hard to stop Josh Allen in the red zone. So I was trying to figure it out, but people are thinking it's like an egregious decision or whatever, or he's being greedy. And at some point, you're going to have to kick an onside kick.
But, it's funny because the second onside kick that we had was much closer, to being a recovery. And how sweet would that have been?
Everyone in the stadium held their breath when I was in there because it looked, the whole team was claiming that we had got it. All of Lions were claiming that we had got it.
Yeah, they were back and forth.
And it, And then they showed a replay. It was hard to tell who had actually got that, but Jake Bates was right in there with it. He was trying to get that ball.
I mean, I think he probably had a decent shot at it, but there's a fight in the bottom of that pile. And the kicker is usually not going to win that.
No, they're not. But he almost caught them off guard because, we had kicked it all the way to my right. And then this one, he acted like he was going to kick right and then tried to kick it out the middle because that player that was in the middle, I don't know who it was for.
It was a linebacker.
Yeah, he scooted, his momentum was carrying him away. It was close, but it just wasn't meant to be. Weird.
I mean, honestly, if you're able to rip it away in the bottom of the pile, that's our ball because that's what it came down to. There's a fight for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would have taken another one of our players to just hit that player and just hopefully the ball dislodges and then, we just come up with it. It was super close, and that would have been, I would have just loved to have that opportunity. 12 seconds left, 40, you probably had 2 or 3 plays, depending on how quick you were to get them out. We had 2 timeouts, so you could have been anywhere on the field. Because if you'd have caught it, they could have just kneeled down and called timeout immediately. The hook and ladder, which they ran on that last drive the Lions had, they could have ran that again.
That was that 4th down play. Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah. The person next to me in the stands where was that the rest of the game? Well, we can't just constantly run the hook and ladder play.
Yeah.
But it was perfect because it took Gibbs right to the sideline, and then he can run out of bounds and we don't have to use a timeout or spike it or whatever. So, it was, it was crazy. People are up in our arms about that onside kick, but to me, it was a 50-50 call. I could argue either way. It feels like it would have been a slower death had we just kicked it because we can get into it when we get into the units, but we just could not stop them enough to get the ball back and force a punt. So, it is.
You got to try something, and I mean that's what we went for.
Exactly. The other big story that we had this week are season ticket prices went up. Let's save that for the end because we're just going to go into this game. If you want to hear some talk about that, I have season tickets. Obviously, everyone knows that if you listen to the show a lot. Jacob does not, so kind of get both of our perspectives on that. We'll talk about that at the end. So we already mentioned about the season-ending injuries. Carlton Davis, broken jaw. Dan Campbell didn't declare him out for the playoffs in this, so that was kind of a see how it goes thing. So we don't really know about that. But Aleem McNeil tore his ACL, which it sucks for right now, but it also possibly sucks for next year because that's a 6 to 12 month recovery, depending on a lot of different factors. So, I mean, you're talking about mid-October to playoff time next year. When we would get Aleem back, which obviously that stinks because that's not affecting this year and it's going to affect, the beginning of next year. Khalil Dorsey broke his leg, very similar to the Hutch injury, just bad luck. He was about to be in line with a starting role with Carlton Davis going out. And then Dave Montgomery with a sprained MCL. They were going in to do surgery today. His season's done. So Carlton Davis possibly be back, but the other 3 players, they're out. Anything
devastating.
on those?
Devastating. Really, yes.
Yes.
I mean, the worst possible. It's a weird way to kick us when we're already down after the loss and then to find out, core members of the team are not going to, be with us for the rest of the, potentially the rest of the season. Carlton Davis would have an outside chance at the NFC Championship game, so there's, possible hope there, but I mean, we need him now. He's a crucial part of the team, as was Aleem McNeil. And, obviously we can't say enough positive things about David Montgomery. The only thing we have going for us there is that we have Jahmyr Gibbs also. The reason that works so well is because they complement each other and because they don't have to be out there for, 30 snaps a game. And now it seems like we're going to have to rely on Gibbs a whole lot more than we have been. Yeah, which he's up to the challenge. I mean, I'm not worried about that. I'm more, it's back to the defense. Most of our injuries have been on defense, and it's just not getting any better. We do have Anzalone's going to be coming back. We, don't know for sure about Iffy. Rakestraw. Potentially we've got them coming back soon, but are they going to be able to come back and play more or, play up to their speed? How long is it going to take for them to get up to game speed?
Yeah, if he could be a solution at the linebacker position, or there's a lot of switching around. You could put Iffy at safety, put Brian Branch down at nickel, move Amik outside. There's a lot of, we still have Mosley back too, and he's been inactive, so he's probably going to get an opportunity to play, I would think now. So there's a lot of moving parts there. We'll see how that all works out. But, I don't know if you saw today, Jacob, or not, but Dan Campbell said that they're starting Iffy's. He's coming back to practice this week. So they're starting his 21-day window. So he said that there's even a chance that he could be active this week. He didn't sound like overly optimistic that would be happening, but that is a possibility. But they'll have to make that decision in 3 weeks. My thinking is if they think he's ready, he's probably going to come back earlier than they normally wait on these injured players, just because we really don't have a lot of options. Lions also signed Anthony Pittman, linebacker, off the Jaguar, former Lion, off the Jaguars practice squad today to help out with these injuries. So I don't know. We're just stealing everybody's practice squad players at this point.
Kind of have to, right? We need people in football shape. We got to plug and play.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a tough deal, but you get someone that's somewhat familiar with the system. Like you said, football shape. He's been on a practice squad. He's not been sitting on a couch, so he's ready to come in and play, and that's the way we're going to have to go. All right. Anything before we get into the individual units here, Jacob?
Nope, let's go for it.
All right. So special teams, real quick. Jake Bates, 6 for 6 on extra points, but he had a really bad miss on that 52-yarder. I'm still trying to figure out what happened there.
Yeah. I mean, probably the worst kick we've ever seen him attempt in any, even training camp or anything. I don't, I watched it a couple times. It didn't look like there was a bad snap. It didn't look like there was a bad hold. It didn't look like he slipped or like his timing was off. It was just a terrible kick.
Yeah.
He missed the net.
I know. I saw it and I was like, live. I'm like, what happened? I thought for sure something had a bad snap or something. And so I'm messaging you and you're like, no, I just think he just shanked it.
Yeah.
Bad.
And the timing of it, the Bills had just missed their kick. We were trying to get some points. This is our chance to try to catch up. We already can't get it done, have to settle for a field goal. And then, for it to be a miss was not good for the momentum that we needed.
I know. Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I really wanted him to go down and score a touchdown at that point. But yeah, getting the field goal was would have been a nice consolation prize. But then to end with no points, that really stunk. Jack Fox had a good game, 3 punts, average of 55.7. I remember his first punt was not that great, but he did flip the field on his next 2 and made up for it. So again, solid game for Jack Fox. Too bad we had to use him. I like those games when he just sits on the bench the whole time, except for holding extra points. But, he is a useful tool when we have to use him.
Exactly. He did his job.
He did. All right. Defense. So for me, you have Josh Allen, who's, as Dan Campbell said, as Superman, did amazing things. But for me, what was really stuck out from us is that we did not stop the run. We needed to stop that run so they could get out of second and third and short, and because that could make Josh Allen super dangerous. And we just could not do it the whole game. That was the worst run defense game I've seen him play in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, their running backs in the running game and in the passing game, their running backs were just tearing us apart.
Yep.
Really was a difference maker.
Yeah.
They only really had, I think, they had 2 really long runs, I think. The one was a touchdown run, but I mean, they were consistently moving the ball, consistently getting first downs. Josh Allen using his legs didn't help either.
Yep. Yeah, Josh Allen had 11 rushes for 68 yards. There was a RPO one at was it third, fourth quarter where he had a huge run. But for the most part, we kind of kept him in check for the running. But James Cook, 14 carries for 105 yards. The next gen stat is that he had 52 yards before contact, which is a terrible. And that's what it looked like. He was getting 4 or 5 yards before he was even touched, which is very unlike our defense. And that was even early when we had Reader and Aleem in there. Our linebackers were just not playing very well this game.
Most of these were zone scheme runs that were kind of leaning towards the outside, and they had the holes. The edge was not set by the edge defenders, and the linebackers were either crashing in or they were so far back they were not able to make plays on it. For all the success that we had with, we talked about all these new players and these guys off the street and how well the defense played last week. It was the exact opposite this week. This was more what you would expect it to look like. Out of position, they're not making plays. It was just a great game plan by the Bills, too. They were using motion. They were trying to figure out, they knew we were in man. We run so much man defense. They were exploiting, anytime you have Ezekiel Turner or Quan Alexander trying to cover the running back out of the backfield, it's all it takes is Josh Allen to create just a couple extra seconds of time, and those guys are going to get open. They're going to beat those linebackers. And that's exactly what happened. And that was just, it kept the drives going. It kept these big chunk plays. They were 5 out of 10 on third down. I think they had 1 fourth down attempt, and they ended up getting a huge gain on that. And that was just, that was a brilliant play. I don't know what more. That was Ezekiel Turner again. It was a chip play, right there in the line. He's on a running back. It's a tough ask to have these linebackers try to cover these running backs, when they don't fully know the defense. There's a reason that most of them were not on the team at the beginning or weren't on a team at the beginning of the season. You have to call it like it is. They're here now. We need them now. I have faith that the defense is going to play better and that the, coaching staff's going to have them more prepared. But you can't ignore the talent, I don't know if you say talent deficiency or just the talent difference between James Cook versus, Ezekiel Turner, Ben Neiman. Quan Alexander's best years are behind him for sure. We're asking a lot of the linebackers, and they definitely were not prepared this game. And I think it really came down to the coaching and the scheme that they had. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Buffalo seemed to have whatever advantage they had. They just took advantage of it repeatedly, and then the Lions weren't quick enough to adapt. But this is a game where I think that we missed Alex Anzalone the most. Like, we could have really used Alex and Malcolm, to be honest with you. Those two guys, they just took advantage of using Ty Johnson. He's using him, and he had his career high in receiving. Our linebackers just couldn't keep up. It was a third down killer for us. And like you said, Josh Allen just needed a little bit of extra time, and he was able to get that. We were not able to get a crunching pressure. He was able to escape out of there, and then, Josh Allen didn't have to be Superman the whole game, but the few times that he had to turn into Superman, he turned into him.
What did you think of the starting defensive line? We went with Levi and it was Levi and Pascal on the outsides.
Yeah.
I mean, did you like that? Did you think that was, Zadarius didn't play a whole lot of snaps in this game?
Yeah, I think that they were trying to... I
questioned that decision.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think they were just trying to set the edge, but obviously that didn't work. We weren't able to set the edge. I think that's what they were hoping to do, is thinking that we're going to just try to provide a crunch on defense. Pascal with power. Levi can do power, or he can do a little speed. Try to just keep Josh Allen inside the pocket, but none of it worked. But Josh Allen is going to be, if he wasn't the MVP before this game, this solidified it. I mean, Josh Allen tore a Super Bowl contending team apart.
Yeah. I mean, I think he already was MVP, but you're right. Now he's just kind of padding on to that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, you need to be on the outside. You need to be able to contain. You need to be able to beat him to the outside. That was never going to happen with those two defenders that we had.
No.
And I do, they are good edge defenders. Pascal definitely can crash down the line, but, there were a couple opportunities there where you saw he had Josh Allen right there, or I think James Cook also kind of like on the outside. It's just not fast enough to get out there. And that's
Yeah,
another thing that's painful to watch because that's exactly what Hutch would just completely blow that up. You're not getting away from Hutch like you're getting away from Pascal.
Yep. No, I mean, I think we talked about it after when Hutch went down that I was really worried about the run game with Hutch because he is so good at both. And it just, you know, it is what it is. We needed to shut that down. Even if we just shut down the run game, the way Josh Allen was playing and the way they're, the slot receiver Shakir and Ty Johnson were getting open down the field when Josh Allen extended the play, it'd have been hard to stop them. But when it was a 3rd and 5, it just made it really, really impossible to stop them.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen 362 passing yards, but if you look at the breakdown, I mean, these were not his receivers beating our secondary. I mean, this was tight ends and running backs that were beating our linebackers. That's where the offense came from.
Yeah, Amari Cooper had 0 yards in that game, right?
I don't even know if he was targeted, was he?
Yeah, I don't think he was. I mean, he didn't do anything. So
right,
probably killed some fantasy teams, I'm sure, in the first round of the playoffs. What's your thought on the whole? Aaron Glenn is going to get a head coaching job, and now the Lions fan base, thinks he should be run out of town after one game. What's your thoughts on that?
I hate that. I mean, look who we're putting out there. Like, we've had the most injuries of any team, twice as many people on IR as the next team, I believe. And most of it's these key defenders, and the defense is still playing at a high level. This is one of the best offensive teams in football. Yeah. I don't know what more you could have really expected. We knew what it was, and I'm sure that Aaron Glenn found out from the first quarter, okay, they're going to be targeting our linebackers. What do you want him to do? We can't get a different linebacker at halftime.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what people's expectations are. But the Baltimore game last year was a kick in the teeth, right? I mean, and I think sometimes it's helpful to have that, and I'd rather have it now than in the playoffs, right? I'd rather get that kick in the teeth now and that feeling of invincibility gone. I'd rather have that now and I'm not saying this team needed that by any means, but if we're going to get it, I'd rather get it now rather than in the playoffs. So let's get that taste of a loss. No one likes it. I know the players don't like it. Dan Campbell's not going to like it. Aaron Glenn certainly doesn't like it. Let's take it out on the Bears next week, and then let's take it out on the 49ers the following week, and let's win this division against the Vikings in the last week if we don't get any help along the way. Let's just do it ourselves and win this. And maybe it's because the fan base hasn't tasted a loss in a long time, but they lost their friggin' mind. They really have. Social media stuff is insane.
You got to remember, a lot of these fans were not lifelong Lions fans. They haven't been used to these kind of defeats and different things like that. So as quick as they jumped on the bandwagon, they'll jump right off.
Yeah, but I don't even know if it's that. I just think there's some people that just, want to complain about everything and, think we should win every game like the Jaguars game 52-6. And if we're not, then our coaches are terrible. Was that our best coach game? Probably not. But I don't know. Like you said, what are we going to do? We can't get new linebackers at halftime. We got to play with what we have. When we get to the offense, we could have done more on offense, right? If our defense is that down, we could have done more on offense. And let's get over to that. Let's talk about that. So when you think about the offense, where do you want to start?
I mean, obviously the most glaring part of the game is that our running game was just shut down, and that was just disappointing. And, first 2 drives, we have 3 yards total, the first 2 drives, I believe. And, we watched Buffalo go on these long drives and score. I know you said it earlier, but it really was like the opposite. It's usually what we do to these other teams. We have these drives, we score quick, we keep pouring it on, and it just wasn't happening. And a big part of that was just the running game was not working.
Yeah, no, and so the numbers are Gibbs, 8 carries, 31 yards. Monty, 5 carries, 4 yards. I know he got injured, but, you're not going to that's not Lions football, and that's going to be hard to win any game in which you're doing that. It's going to take a monumental effort by your quarterback to do that, and Goff did have a monumental effort. 38 for 59, 494 yards, almost 500, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, and beyond all that, I'm going to say those numbers look amazing, but watching the game and Goff's ability to move in the pocket, run for some first downs, just get out of for sure sacks. I guaranteed he had 3 or 4 more sacks last year than what he had in this game, just because he was able to get out of it. And then some of it was just throwaway passes. Some of it he was able to complete, like the touchdown pass to Patrick. He ran and made that defense commit to him, and he knew he had Patrick on the outside. And that was, I know that Goff did that on purpose, just watching it over and over again. He did that. He drew him in and passed off. So I really liked what I saw from Goff in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 10-yard run for a first down. Another one where it looks like he's moving slow motion compared to everyone else, but you're right. He's using his legs. He's extending plays. It was funny after their first touchdown started. I guess the Bills fans were chanting MVP after Josh Allen touchdown. Yeah. So then Goff responds. They start chanting MVP for Goff too. So that was a fun little back and forth. I don't know if you saw this, but Goff is the first quarterback in NFL history. So he threw 5 interceptions and we won the game. And now he throws 5 touchdowns and we lose the game.
Yeah.
First time that's ever happened.
Yeah, I told Sarah that statistical anomaly on the way home that I was like thinking about the game. I'm like, he threw 5 touchdowns and we lost. Yeah, and the Texas game was the opposite. Crazy. The dueling MVP chance was a fun part of the game. There was more Bills fans at this stadium than I would have liked there to be, but Buffalo is relatively close. Big matchup. I was not surprised that there was a lot of Buffalo fans there. But yeah, the dueling MVP chances, it was fun. I enjoyed that part of it. I don't think the Lions fans were ever drowned out by that. I think like a couple Bills fans in my section, but everything was cool. And every Bills fan that I saw out there was pretty cool. I didn't see anybody else getting rowdy or being, rude or anything. So it was all right.
Didn't witness anybody flying through any tables on the way there.
Did not. I wanted to throw someone through a table after the game, not because of how they were acting, but just because I was mad that the Bills beat us. And we talk about the run game and what the Bills were able to do with this. Ed Oliver just tore us up again, just like he did in that Thanksgiving Day game. He dominated Glasgow. He had 10 pressures on 42 pass rushes, the most of any that he's had in any game this season. I think it's been the most by a defensive tackle in any game this season. He just tore us up. He got in the backfield and disrupted the run game.
He got to Ragnow a couple of times too. I mean, Frank had a couple holding penalties. I don't know if it was on Oliver, but I mean, him and Graham were definitely getting blown up in the middle. It did not help the cause.
No, it did not. Which is crazy. Goff was only sacked 3 times in that game. And then, and especially the second half when they knew we were just passing the whole time. I mean, we were down by 2 or 3 scores, trying to, inch our way back into the game. And they knew we were going to have to pass. And, Goff still did his thing. Amon-Ra had an amazing game outside of the fumble, which that was, you talk about the run game, that fumble, we gave up another possession, and we couldn't afford to do that in a game like this.
Yeah, we only had a couple opportunities to really make something happen, and we didn't. Really, they had that missed kick. So they missed that kick. It's towards the end of halftime. It was a 24-yarder. So, I mean, that was almost a give me, and he misses that. So then we've got, a little less than 2 minutes to go downfield, and we're down by a touchdown. So, I mean, if we punch in the end zone there, it's a tie game at halftime. And then we're good. Then we're all feeling much better. We've got some of the momentum back. Not able to get it done, and then we miss a field goal too. That's a missed opportunity there. And then that fumble was off of, the only punt that we had that we forced. We forced a punt for the Bills. It was a nice punt. Former Lion Sam Martin. So we're starting the drive inside our own 5. We're moving it a little bit, and then we've got that fumble. And then to make matters worse, at that point we're down by 2 touchdowns. But after the fumble, they drive down and score. And then here we are. Now we're down 35-14. And that's towards the end of the third quarter. And that's probably when fans started thinking about the exits. That's when things started to look pretty grim.
Yeah, I don't know if people started leaving that early. There might have been a few, but most of them, it was in the middle of the fourth quarter. Some people at the onside kick, that was when they had enough. But let's talk about a couple of the bright spots in the game. Dan Skipper finally got a touchdown, right? I mean, that was awesome. The crowd still cheers every time they say number 70 is eligible, and this time we had something to even cheer about even more because Dan Skipper, he fakes down like he's going to block, and then he runs out. Goff gets him the pass, and he went rumbling and stumbling into the end zone. I think 8 yards for the touchdown. It was close. The replay was his knee was down, but I was so glad they didn't call that back and they gave him the touchdown.
Right? Yeah, no, he was wide open. They closed in on him. I was surprised that they still tried to take him down because he's pretty much in the end zone. He's a big guy. I mean, one of the biggest guys you're going to come across. And the Bills, I don't know what defender it was. He still went low. He still, tried to hit him. I thought Skipper should have tried to hurdle him, but, he went for lowering the shoulder.
We can't have any more injuries. So I don't want 6'9" Dan Skipper flying through the air.
Can you imagine if he pulled off a hurdle there?
Yeah. Well, do you think that Dan Skipper can hurdle?
No. You can't get very high off the ground, no.
No. He could maybe dive.
You're right. If he leaves the air, they're flipping him.
Yeah. The other cool play there was that trick play. They hand off to Dave Montgomery and he tosses it back to Goff, and then Goff, gets that completion. That was a pretty cool play too.
It was. And then, you mentioned, they had the hook and ladder again. They were mixing things up on offense. I mean, the offense was moving the ball. If you didn't watch this game and you just saw the final score and you just looked at the stats, you'd probably think that it wasn't so bad. It's just, the feeling that we got every time, it just felt like every time the Bills got the ball that they were moving it and that we weren't going to be able to stop them. Even when we got them on third down situations, Josh Allen was just able to move around too well. Even, I know Dan Campbell said in the presser, even when they had a spy on him, he just wasn't able to get there in enough time. He's creating too much time back there. Then you don't know if he's really taking off or if he's throwing it downfield because he's doing both things. Just, what a weapon Josh Allen is. It's very hard to defend, and I don't know if you watched the replay. There was a graphic that came up, too, that the Lions actually give up the most rushing yards of quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, and that's the way it feels too. I'm okay with most of it because usually we're up and they're doing that, whatever they can do to do the game. I thought we kept Kyler Murray pretty much in check. I don't remember anyone really, Anthony Richardson on the first drive tore us up, but then after that didn't do too much to us. Josh Allen just ripped us up, this game. And like you said, he's the MVP for a reason. I don't know what else to say other than that. We're going to take this loss in stride. As far as our offense, we were 5-5 for touchdowns in the red zone, which you love. I mean, we got to score in the red zone. The third down, 6 for 13. So that's not even a terrible rate there. That's pretty good. And we were 3 for 3 on fourth down. Went for it again on fourth down. Some of it because, most of the time it was because we had to late in the game. But again, 3 for 3. We did our thing. It's just we let them get out in front and we couldn't ever provide the stop, and then the one turnover just derailed it even when we were trying to mount a comeback. So there were things that we could have did on offense to keep. I mean, the offense is going to have to play pretty darn perfect football in a game like this to win. Hopefully we have like a more margin for error in, next week versus the Bears. Caleb Williams, he can make a mistake. We don't have to, hopefully Gibbs can have more opportunities rushing yard. Gibbs tore the Bears up until we didn't rush in the second half. Well, now Gibbs is going to be our running back, our bell cow. So we'll have to have that opportunity next week and see how he does. Hopefully the weather isn't too crazy.
not every team is going to be able to put up 48 points like that on us. It's just not going to happen.
No.
I would think none of the other teams on the schedule are going to be able to put up as many points as the Bills did.
I agree. And I think, the Vikings have that opportunity, but I also think that, Sam Darnold's not Josh Allen. So,
Right.
the understatement of the century maybe there, but I think that we can, we'll be able to handle him a lot easier than we would Josh Allen. I don't really have much else to say about the game other than those things. Is there anything else that comes to your mind or that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think my main point, for a lot of the fans that seem to, the sky is falling, better luck next year. It's not over yet. We're not willing to call it, we're not willing to call it quits. We're not willing to, just say that the season is over. The playoffs are already a lock. We don't have to, fight for a playoff spot. We're fighting for the division. We're still fighting for the 1 seed, and we still have control of all those things. I mean, that's, the ball's on our court.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's definitely still doable. I don't have the odds in front of me, but I would still say the odds probably favor us in these situations still.
We're favored next week I think we're going to be favored in the next 2 games. Probably all 3 games because we got Minnesota at home. So I think we'll be favored through the rest of the 3 games. I guess how I process this loss is, I'm disappointed that they lost. It's not the end of the world. Like you said, if you're going to lose one of the last 4 games, this was the one to lose because it was against an AFC opponent, which when the tiebreakers, especially with the Eagles, this is the one to lose because conference opponents is one of your tiebreakers. And we only have 1 loss to conference opponent at this point, the Bucs, whereas the Eagles have 2 losses. Both their losses come against conference opponents. So that puts us in a good position. If we win out, it doesn't matter what the Eagles do. So we still control our own destiny as far as the number 1 NFC seed. I'm just disappointed with the injuries, how it looks forward. But at the end of the day, like the injuries are some that the Lions can't control. I know that people want to say, well, is it the training staff, blah, blah, blah. Those broken legs that Hutch and Dorsey have, no training staff is ever going to prevent that from happening. Those are just freak injuries. Same thing with Anzalone, broken wrist. Freak injury. It just happened. Branch just hit it in a weird spot. You might say, well, we're overly aggressive and that caused that. But that overly aggressive makes us be a good defense. So you're going to shut that down. I don't know how you tell the guys to play at 90% speed. You don't. The ACL injury to Aleem, that wasn't a training issue. Malcolm Rodriguez had an ACL injury. Those are just freak injuries that happen. That's not because they're not in shape or they're not doing the right stuff. Those are just freak injuries that happen.
And we have the same staff that we had last year, and we didn't have half as many injuries last year.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the strength and conditioning coach or the nutritionist or that's all just ridiculous.
You could argue having all those games in a short period of time that, could contribute to some injuries for sure. Just wear and tear on the body. But that's nothing the Lions did. That's the NFL scheduled those games. And they're not going to stop scheduling Thursday night games. They make too much money on this stuff. They want to add an 18th game to the schedule, another game. So we'll see how that works. I hope if they do that, they add an extra bye week. I think a second bye week would really help everything. You'd have like a first half bye and a second half bye. So you couldn't have like buys really close together. They'd have to be like, 5 or 6 weeks apart at the minimum.
It would be much easier than to also try to have your bye play into like some of these Thursday night games too.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're going to have a Thursday night game, you get the Sunday off before that. And if you had 2 buys, you could easily work that out much better than the way it is now. Or if you're going to have an international game, you get either buy off before or after or something like that. Just give your body some time to recover. So I think 2 buys allows that. So if they're going to go to 18 games, I think they just need to do, just add that extra bye week, and then you back up Super Bowl week by a week or whatever, and then it is what it is. The season will get longer. It's going to happen. The 18th game's going to happen. There's no doubt about that. No one wants this odd 17th week.
Right.
It's the owners want it to happen. They just couldn't institute it, without player approval. But by the next contract, an 18th game's coming. All right. Let's real quick. Well, before we get to the season ticket talk, we're great guarantees. We're both negatory because both of ours dealt with turnovers and we didn't get any. So sucked on that one, but that's the way that goes. And then we both said go for the under, right? I think both of us once said we'd go for the under. Dead wrong.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
listen to us. Don't follow your betting on us, apparently. But no, we just happened to get that one wrong. It was a high scoring game. Couldn't stop them. So before we head out of here, I want to talk about season ticket prices, my opinion on that. I know a lot of people were up in arms. No one's talking about that now because of the loss this week, but mine went up about 20%, which is like $1,000, like $250 per seat. Am I happy about paying more money? No. Do I get it? Yeah, I understand it. If I was owning a business, would I take advantage of a 20,000 person wait list for season tickets? Because they know if I cancel, someone's going to easily take those tickets. I don't think the Lions owe me anything as a fan to do that. However, I could understand if you've had season tickets for 20 years and some of those people have seen like 100% increase in the last 3 years. I get it. I understand. But the way I also look at it is they didn't increase. We were the lowest. The Lions were like the lowest for ticket prices for, starting 3 years ago. And all of a sudden now we're going to be in the middle of the pack. And that's why you're seeing these large increases. Mine didn't increase as much because I just got mine 2 years ago. So, I started in the middle of this increase. So do you have any thoughts about season ticket price increase or anything about that as someone who doesn't have season tickets, Jacob?
Yeah. So I don't have season tickets. I've already kind of been priced out. I mean, a lot of people are probably in the same boat that I am where, you're a diehard fan and you want to go see a game. I have 4 kids and it would be impossible for me to, take my kids and take my family to a Lions game this year or last year just because of, how much they're charging for the aftermarket prices and everything like that too. I've already been priced out of that. So I do think, you have to understand the business aspect, the success the team has had, and, the entertainment value, I guess you would say. They have that ability to charge whatever they want to charge for these, and they've got people that are going to pay for them. But I do want to say, I think that the diehard fans that should be there are not going to be there because there's probably a great deal of them that have been priced out. And you've got people that, can afford the season tickets that are either going to be selling them to opposing teams or, they're trying to make a profit off of it. Or those are the people that, every time I go to the game, I look at the first couple rows and see the people that don't show up until, kickoff or like a little bit after the first quarter. And those are the people that don't care as much. And they're probably the ones that are leaving in the fourth too if we're down. So the level of fandom is probably going to be taking a hit because of that. But at the same time, it's got to be expected, right? I mean, I know you knew that it was going to be an increase. I think everyone knew that it was going to be going up again. What also sucks is if the product on the field doesn't match, and then, 4 people that are trying to resell or 4 people that are trying to get your money, now, if the season had went a different way, you're on the hook for all that money, and now you can't even give away your tickets for the Vikings game at the end of the year, which is what I'm sure people went through for years and years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like you could look at the secondary market, and this is the argument against the price increases that Lions be like, well, you could sell your tickets for, twice what you paid for them. Well, that incurs a lot of risk on my part because say the season could have gone a lot different with the injuries. We could have lost like 5 in a row or whatever because of these injuries. And then all of a sudden, like you said, the Buffalo game is not as sought after. The Vikings game, that may not be sought, depends on how things go here. That may be a really sought after ticket or a not sought after ticket. But I'm, as a season ticket owner, I'm taking all that risk. The Lions have already sold that ticket. They're passing that extra cost to me. They're reducing. It's getting closer and closer to the secondary market value. At some point, there's going to be people are going to just not be able to afford to pay for a game. that's going to happen at some point. And I don't like that aspect of it. I don't have the answer for you. But I will say that, ask me 10 years ago if the people had season tickets, if you'd have said, hey, if your season tickets go up by 50% but we're going to put a team that's possibly a Super Bowl winner in there, would you pay it? And I guarantee that 100% of those people would say, yes, I will pay to see my team in that Super Bowl. Now when you're actually telling them the price has gone up, everyone's going to be upset and be like, well, I paid for years and I saw a bunch of crap. Now they're playing good and the prices are going up. Well, that's just the way things are. Tigers are going to be doing the same thing. They start making playoffs. I guarantee that your season ticket prices are going to go up because they know that people are going to be willing to pay for a winner. It's just the reality of the situation.
I do wish there was some sort of way you could, they'd have some sort of discount or some sort of grandfathered in rate or something, people that have had season tickets for like 30 plus years.
Yeah. Well, I think if you had 10 plus years, there could be a way to do that. Or, say you've used all your tickets and you've never sold them. I sell some of my tickets just because family stuff, or, it's just hard for me. And I know there's other people that are in that same boat where you just can't make every game. So you sell them, and it's not necessarily, to make the money is nice because it helps pay for next year's tickets, but that's not the only reason I'm selling tickets. But I know there's probably other people that are selling tickets just so they could afford to have any sort of season tickets. Like you said, family of 4 trying to go, that's crazy expensive. If you're buying the Buffalo Bills game, that's probably a minimum of like $1,600 to go to a game like that. And that isn't including parking and food and all that stuff. That's just ticket prices.
Yeah. So, that was, $300 a ticket for standing room only or something like that.
Yeah. And their standing room only area sucks. So I would not pay
right
to stand there. Question. Do you think that the price increase will result in more fans from other teams coming into Ford Field?
I do think it will, because I think that more people are going to be, whereas now it's been such a good environment and, it's hard because I don't have season tickets, but in my opinion, I feel like, yes, that people are going to feel pressured. Like maybe you only sold 1 or 2 games a year and you tried to make it to every single one. Well, now if you're talking about the economy and everything that you have going on, maybe now you're selling an extra game or 2. Now you're only going about half of them because you want to keep your season tickets, but you also want to try to be able to afford everything too. And, when you try to resell those, not all of those go to Lions fans. And that's how we take over opposing team stadiums, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do, I fear that is going to be the case, is that there are going to be more fans from opposing teams coming in.
Yeah, I think that too, but also I think there's so much demand for these there's 20,000 people on the waiting list just for season tickets. That doesn't account for people that want to go to just one game. And, in my view, if you're an opposing fan, you're going to look around the league and be like, I want to go to an away game. Going up to Detroit and paying way higher secondary fees than probably a lot of other stadiums, I would think that you'd want to go to a cheaper stadium or a cheaper place to watch a game rather than going up to Detroit and paying these really high secondary market values. So I don't know for sure that it's going to, cause like an invasion of our stadium. But like you said, the more tickets that are up for sale leads to more opportunities for opposing fans. But if you look right now, Jacob, on any given day, the secondary market, there's tons of tickets up for sale. So I don't think it's all of a sudden going to result in an egregious amount more up for sale. But it possibly could. Who knows?
It also, like we said, depends on how the season's going.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's always going to be the case.
Yeah. Yes. That's going to happen every year. You're not like I said, this year could have went totally different with injuries, but luckily we've been able to hold it together and we're still having an amazing season. So I can't imagine next year we're having more injuries than what we're having this year.
Well, I hope not. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible either. So, yeah, let's get this loss out of our system. Let's go play these Bears, who looks like they're going to get beat by the Vikings. It's 27-12 right now. There's like 5 minutes left in the fourth, but the Bears are about to score here, but I still think they're still going to probably lose.
Yeah, we both knew that was going to happen. But you know what sucks about that is that now we really, really have to root for the Packers against the Vikings.
I know.
Disgusting.
Yeah, we were. My boys stayed out to about halftime of this Bears game, and I was upstairs with them, and they're like, "Dad, I feel gross rooting for the Bears."
It doesn't feel right.
I was like, "I know how you feel. Just it's a necessary evil every once in a while." Real quick before we get out of here, I want see if there's something. I don't know if you know what's coming out on Thursday, but James Gunn has the new Superman movies coming out next year, and the trailer is going to drop on Thursday. Are you interested? I know you like superhero stuff. Are you interested in that at all?
I am interested just because I like what James Gunn does, but I have not followed anything. Like, I don't know anything about it, which is probably honestly better because even like through the Deadpool stuff, I tried not to look at anything ahead of time until they had trailers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the Marvel stuff, especially Spider-Man, I'm all about Spider-Man. So it's impossible for me to not look at teasers and look at spoilers and try to find out everything I can about Spider-Man. So the other movies, I try to just, not look too deep into it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I like Superman. Other than Spider-Man, he's probably my favorite superhero. I'm like you. I really like Spider-Man and just enjoy that character in general. But I'm really curious to see what James Gunn does with Superman. I like the Man of Steel series. I really like Batman vs. Superman. So I know that some people were down on that, but I liked it. But I'm really curious. I'm not really familiar with the actor that plays Superman that much in this series, which is probably a good thing.
I'm sure it's exactly how they wanted it, right?
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. But before we head out, I want to give a shout out to Cody, one of our super fans. He messaged me on Reddit. He's the one that I mentioned a few episodes back that bought that T-shirt that my son designed. Showed me a picture of it. It turned out really good. It looks really good on the shirt. So I was really happy that he reached out to me and let me know that he got it. I'm happy. This goes to a good fan, and like I said, I'm super happy for my son. I got to show him, and he was jacked about that. So,
right. Shouts out to Cody.
Yep. So I appreciate everyone that's been listening to us going through our first season here. Our numbers look really good. We're really happy with how we're going. So if you want to give us some feedback or things you want to see, or maybe a different segment that you might be interested in, we'd be open to hearing all that. We're looking for ways to improve the show always. So please give that to us. Anything else you want to talk about, Jacob? Or
no, man, I'm ready to move on.
Yep, we'll be back later on this week, preview the Bears, and let's go Lions.